Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. It's a nice sunny and wet day, if I can have that. Excited to get started on today's training. We will in just a second. I really like visibility. This is our topic today, so we're going to have a lot of fun with it. I do want to encourage you to put your information in the chat. Let us know you're out there. Let other people know that you're out there. It's a great way to sit there and network. Okay, let me just make sure I got my ducks in a row. Got a lot of good topics to get to. So let's just go ahead and get started with today's training. Again, we're going to be talking about being visible to federal buyers. This is a really important aspect of government contracting, right? If people don't know who you are, then they can't buy from you. There's a great line out there that says people buy from those they know, like, and trust. And this is a line that sometimes gets passed around and people are like, oh, it's a buzzword. It's like, yeah, well, it's a buzzword on purpose. It's a buzzword because it has value. This whole idea of know, liking, and trust is the evolution of a relationship. First, we don't know each other. Then we begin to kind of like each other. Then we start really trusting each other, especially a buyer-seller relationship like we're in. That's a really important thing to keep in mind, is that is an evolution of a relationship. And when you think about trying to build your network or build strategic relationships with federal buyers or teammates, et cetera, you're going to have to go through that journey with each one of them. We do it loosely in networking events like this where we can interact. We start beginning to know each other. We like each other in the chat. But trust comes from when we start seeing more information. And so we'll talk about that in different trainings. But today it's more about the first part of know, like, and trust, the know part. And that's the visibility part. I put a question down here about how many people know you, right? Because you're a representative of your company. And how many people know your company? That's a really important thing. How many federal buyers know of your company? As you think about, just awareness of your company out there, it's not enough to have a website. A lot of us in the old days, we said, you got to have a website. If you have a website, people can begin to find you. Well, that's not how people find you these days. And it certainly is not how the federal buyer does that. And we'll talk more about this, but they don't do kind of heavy searching on where you want them to go. They do searching on where they prefer to search. And we'll talk about that. There's really specific ones. The other thing I want to just talk about as we go into today's training is to remember visibility, being visible to federal buyers, et cetera. That's not a talent we're born with. That's not just something some people are better naturally at than others. It's a skill set. It's a discipline. Almost everything that we do is a discipline that can be developed so that you learn, they call it, you gain the knowledge to develop the skill, and then you practice it over and over again to get really experienced and good at it. And visibility is just another thing. I'm going to give you some tips about initial, very passive visibility activities. And then there's proactive or active activity that you can do that is increasing your visibility every single day. I did a whole training yesterday about how to find federal buyers. And one of the things I talked about at the end was engage with them, a little thumbs up. Somebody sent me a comment afterwards or a message saying they've been engaged out there or, tracking commercial buyers and federal buyers, but they really hadn't paid attention to how powerful something as simple as a thumbs up can be. If you go out to LinkedIn, you're giving a thumbs up, you're starting to build visibility. And this goes back into the difference between some passive activity that you could do to be visible, and there's active activity you can do to be visible. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is that visibility. I'm going to break today's training down for how to be visible to federal buyers and agencies, et cetera, into three sections. First is, I just want to reinforce why visibility is important in the federal market. And frankly, in all sales, visibility is important to your success. The second thing I'm going to cover down on is where to be visible and how you can get buyers' attention, or where to be visible to get buyers' attention. You have to go where they're at, not make them come to where you're at. Does it make sense? And this third one I'm going to cover down on is what to fix immediately. I want to give you actionable steps you can take today and into next week that will immediately fix your visibility and begin to ensure that you get found by federal buyers, by teammates, even by employees who are looking for companies like yours, just found by the people you want to find you. There's things you can do, but you've got to take charge and do it yourself. Okay, if you don't know who I am, my name is 𝗟𝗶හි𝗸𝗁𝗂𝗃. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I am co-founder of GovCon in a Box, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market after I got out of the Army as a small business government contractor. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. And this is what I want for you. You can have that same predictable results of buyers finding you, of teammates finding you, when you follow a process to become visible. And that's today's training, and that's what we're going to be doing. If you haven't done so already, tomorrow's training, go ahead and sign up for that. Let me turn my camera a little smaller here. Tomorrow's training is winning more federal contracts. And so register for that. I think we got another 100 people already signed up for that. Love to have you in there. And then the other thing is, if you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn already, especially if you're in the GovCon space or interested in the federal market, come connect with me. I'm connected with almost 40,000 people, followers out there, and that's my network. And my network is your network. Your network is my network, right? When we connect with each other, we're able to help each other. Whether you're trying to just do a pass-through introduction, I'm happy to do that. Whether you're sharing content or I'm sharing content, it begins with us being connected on LinkedIn. So especially if you're on Twitter or YouTube, et cetera, great that you're seeing me there, but come over to LinkedIn and let's network together. Last thing is, make sure you subscribe to our Government Contracting Success newsletter. We put out a lot of good information that's valuable to you and your journey as a government contractor. So let's get started with why visibility is important. It's really important to your success out there, and sometimes we just take it for granted. Or people like me, I might just assume you know why visibility is important. But what's really helpful for me is I go back and I go, well, what was my journey from visibility? And I remember it too. So I told you I had two different government contracting businesses. Both of them were successful. Both of them, I would say, were successful because I was very good at sales. And my whole career, I've been doing sales since my teens, right? If you haven't heard, I started my sales career selling newspapers door to door. Then I sold vacuum cleaners door to door. And then I graduated up into billion-dollar consulting type sales, right? So I've been doing sales for a long time. That enabled me to build my company to the success levels that it had. But it wasn't until I sold my last company and I started the GovCon Chamber of Commerce and I started teaching people the process for success that I really began to realize how invisible I was. We could have been far more successful if I had learned to be more visible. And that's what I'm going to share with you. And I've shared hundreds of videos, trainings on this. You can find them on LinkedIn and YouTube about visibility. But if buyers can't find you, they can't buy from you. And this is really important to remember. It's like, if they can't find me, then when they have a need, they can't come buy from me. So the only people I'm selling to are the people I go to. We call that outbound sales. And I think I'll talk about it in a minute, right? But outbound sales is when I'm knocking on somebody's door. Inbound sales is when they knock on my door. And so if I'm invisible or virtually invisible to the buyer, then how can I expect them to buy from me? If you're invisible, how can you expect them to buy from you? How can you expect them to even find you to engage in dialogue about what you sell? You want them to do that. And that's why we're going to be pushing forward. And that's why you want to be visible. The second thing I have here is that buyers, federal buyers in particular, they don't search for you. They don't go scouring the internet trying to find the best company, right? They look where they're already searching. And there's a lot of different places they'll search. And I'll talk about this in a minute. But there's portals they can search. There's previous contractors they can search. They're not going to go work hard to go out there. I used to say this line that federal buyers, I still do, I just haven't said it lately, is that federal buyers don't buy from the best. They buy from the best of who shows up. So you might be the very best company at what you do, but if you don't show up where the buyer is looking when they're needing you, then they're not going to buy from you. They're going to buy from the next best, right? And there's nothing wrong with that because that's who's coming before them. That's their vendor pool. I want you to sit there and be a lot more visible. Another reason visibility is important is that it creates that inbound activity. I was talking about inbound and outbound sales. So inbound sales is when somebody is knocking on your door. Outbound sales is when you're going out and knocking on their door. This is a really important thing to remember because if you think about the entire buyer pool, right, there's hundreds of thousands of federal buyers. These people are in contracting officer roles. They're in program office roles, small business specialists, teammates, et cetera. There's so many buyers out there. You're barely going to scratch the surface and maybe not going to the door of 1,000 or 2,000 people. Literally, I have a huge network for the GovCon space. I have 40,000 followers, right? 40,000 people in my network just in the GovCon space on LinkedIn. That's a fraction of the hundreds of thousands of potential buyers that are out there. And really that number is well north of $1 million. When I'm saying hundreds of thousands, right? And so visibility increases your chance of having somebody knock on your door when they need what you have, instead of you having to knock on everybody else's door, which is that outbound sales. I'll give you a quick example. If you were in yesterday's training, you might have seen 2 comments, and I didn't go see if they got back. So I'll just say it loosely. 2 people had sent me or put comments into the chat. So just like you're doing today, but they put comments into the chat saying that once they increased their visibility, like I teach all the time, once they followed my teachings and increased their visibility, they started getting inbound calls from teammates, from contracting officers, etc. This has happened over and over again. When you're visible, your buyer can find you. When you're invisible, they can't find you. The next thing is being visible. It really builds trust before the sale. In the old days, when I used to do sales, I would have to go in and have many, many meetings to teach and educate the buyer on what we sell or what's going on in the industry, etc. But the reality is today we call it social selling, but basically just think about the internet. Ever since the internet came along, buyers didn't have to have a meeting with me. They could do all sorts of research on what's going on in the industry out there. They could go maybe to my website, for example, and learn about what we do and the services we offer, things like that, right? And they come into meetings, even first meetings, very informed about who I am, what I sell, what my company sells, etc. And that visibility that I'm able to do, it makes them a more informed buyer, but it also enables me to build trust with them before I even open my mouth. Right. And that's my favorite thing about visibility is you have it working 24/7 for you. So you have to think to yourself, right? Are you visible or are you invisible to the federal buyer? And I've got a score. You can go to govconinabox.com and go see your federal visibility score. How visible are you? It's free. Even the guidance on what to do is free. All aspects of the federal visibility score is free because I want you to go be visible to federal buyers. So go check that out, govconinabox.com, and you can check out your score. Maybe somebody will put that URL into the chat. But it's really important. The last thing with visibility is it makes your company findable and attractive. And what findable and attractive means is that if you think about you're going to go into Google and search for a plumber, if you type plumbing or leaky sink, things like that, then you're going to find all these companies. That's findability. Companies that somehow are talking about on the internet about leaky sinks, right? And then attractive is when I look at your company, or in this case, when a federal buyer looks at your company, when I look, I see that all you do is bathroom related or sink related, kitchen plumbing, bathroom plumbing. I can see that. I don't see that you do houses and construction and build roads and also plumbing, right? That begins to make your company less attractive because I want a company that can come in, fix it. For example, I've got a leaky toilet and I've tried to fix that thing myself 3-4 times. That darn thing is still leaking. Well, I'm going to go find somebody who just does 1,000 toilets a day type thing. I need somebody who comes in and goes, oh yeah, I know exactly what the problem is. It's this. And they'll fix it. And it'll be a miracle and I'll be happy and life will be better. Well, government buyers are the same way. When they go search for you, where I'll talk about the next slide, when they go search for you, you're findable when you come up in those search results, if they search cybersecurity or facility management, et cetera. But you're attractive when they look in and they see everything you're saying aligns to cybersecurity. For example, your past performances relate to cybersecurity. That makes your company attractive. Visibility makes your company findable and attractive. That's why it is important. Thank you to the people putting the link in. I appreciate that. Okay, so let's talk about where you should be visible at. I said be where buyers are already looking. Don't try to get them to come to the website. I talk about 6 marketing assets every government contractor should have, especially small business. And the least important marketing asset is your website. Your website is the least important because it's the last place anybody's going to go look. There will be all these other places they look. In the first place, federal buyers look as a group, as a whole, right? Individuals might have preferences, but as a whole, The Dynamic Small Business Search Tool, DSBS, is the #1 place federal buyers go to find small businesses like yours who are selling what they need. So when you go in there, DSBS is managed by SBA, the Small Business Administration, and it is combined with your SAM profile that is managed by GSA. So GSA and SBA have these two tools called your SAM profile and your DSBS profile. They make your small business profile. That profile you need to complete. That is the #1 thing that I got furious about, and loosely furious. I'm like, how come nobody told me this? When I sold my company and I started preparing to do all this teaching about what to do, I'm like, no one ever told me that. No one ever told me about all the power of these fields and how the buyers are using it, and how DSBS is the only tool that's mentioned in the FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulation. It talks about acquisition personnel, buyers need to go do market research in different areas. For example, the DSBS tool. And so they're encouraged to go out there. Inside of that tool, you will find information that you can fix. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So that's one place, right? Your DSBS profile includes SAM and DSBS together. Get in there, make sure it's maximized. If you go to govconinAbox.com and check out your visibility score, check out your company, I tell you exactly what's wrong with your profile that's making you less visible than you should be. And I tell you what you need to do to get to a score of 100. And all of that activity in there is free. So go check it out, get it done. I have no idea what would stop you from doing that, because the minute you do that, you increase the chances of buyers knocking on your doors. The second place are agency supplier portals, right? So you have DSBS, and this is the main supplier portal for the government. And inside of the government, different agencies have their own supplier portals. HHS, for example, has a supplier portal. In the Navy, NavAir has one. Naval Surface Warfare Center, Crane, just started one out there that they have. You can go to Army Contracting Command, APG, the Aberdeen Proving Ground. And when you go in there, they've got their own kiosk or supplier portal, right? These places are all federal agency unique ones. NASA has one. I did a huge training on that and put it out. And we had thousands of small businesses go register in these portals. It's really important to be there, because if you have a bunch of NASA buyers and they're being encouraged to look at an internal supplier portal tool that NASA has built, then they're going to look there first, and then they're going to go to DSBS, and then they might go somewhere else, right? But why would you not be in NASA's supplier portal if you want to sell to NASA? If you're not in 100 supplier portals, then you need to go to GovCon in a Box, GovCon Chamber, whatever, our sites, and we have a supplier list, a supplier portal list. You download it and just start going. One a day, and you'll be in 100 before you know it. The third one is large prime contractors, right? These guys have their own supplier portals. Small business liaison officers are out there, and they're interacting with industry and their internal customers as well, trying to bring small businesses in to support a large prime's needs. Well, they have supplier portals. Almost every single one of the top 100 companies who are selling to the federal government, whether it's construction or IT services consulting, or when you think about Lockheed or Northrop Grumman, all of those guys have internal supplier portals. Get in there, register in there. I've heard people say, why should I register in there if I'm not going to, if there's not really a chance for me to do business? It's like, it doesn't make sense to me. It takes 15 minutes, let's say, to register in a supplier portal. What if somebody comes knocking on your door because they're like, you know what, I need your services? Well, I'm not going to register in GE because I do facility, bathroom cleaning services. It's like, well, what if somebody in there for internal GE needs, or GE has just contracts that are large facility contracts or something, and says, you know what, we need somebody who does that work because there's no way we're doing it. It's just increasing your visibility. The fourth place, and this is a really important one, and you're right here with me, is LinkedIn, right? You need to be active, and your profile needs to look good in LinkedIn. I'll give you a couple of tips in a minute. You can reach out to my sister, Cecilia, who's in here. She runs a company that's just LinkedIn for GovCon. And so you can check with her. She's got all sorts of good starter tips. But inside of LinkedIn, this is where federal buyers are also looking for people, because this is the professional social media platform. This is where people come to network. I was just using it yesterday and today, reaching into the Army as I'm trying to find federal buyers. In fact, I did all training yesterday about how to find buyers on LinkedIn. But even myself, after I did the training, I'm still in there trying to find people in the Army in the PEO enterprise, because I really want to get them on as guests and start telling the story of what PEO enterprise does. And I don't know many people in there, right? And so I'm starting to build my relationships, but my visibility on LinkedIn needs to be good. So when they see me looking at them, they go, oh, I might actually talk to this guy, at least hear what he has to say, right? That's visibility. The last thing I put here about where to be visible is when you're in these places, you're doing both passive and active visibility. So LinkedIn as an example, when you set your profile up, that's passive visibility. Now I'm visible and I'm telling my story. If people come by and they see it, that's good. But if I engage with people, go out and read content, give a thumbs up or an intelligent comment, well, now I'm doing active visibility. I'm helping people see. If I register in a large supplier, large prime contractor supplier portal, I might then, so that's the passive side of visibility. I might then reach out to the small business liaison officer and say, hey, I just registered in your supplier portal. Do you mind checking it out? See if it, if it rings true for what you guys need. Do you mind if I have an intro call? Things like that. Turn it from a passive to an active visibility. Oh, really quick before I give you tips on where to go be visible and what to do, I just want to thank our sponsors out there. These lives, I do them, right? It's not the SBA or the government or somebody helping us get these out here. I've been doing these for, I've been doing it since 2018, but I've done 800 in the last 3 years now of live video trainings. You can go back and watch them, but it's thanks to people like this or companies like these who help me make this happen and bring this to you. So I really want to celebrate 𝗟𝗶𝗱𝗚𝗂𝗃, who does cybersecurity services, and especially CMMC. If you're trying to look to DoD, you're going to need to be CMMC certified and ready, et cetera. So talk to 𝗟𝗟𝗃. KZO does fractional finance and contract work for you. And I know Kate is in here today, so thank KZO. And Graham, I know, is in here today. Graham does staffing and American Sign Language services. If you can help these people out, meet with them, learn about their businesses, maybe bring them in and say, how can I help you move forward? And the last one is GovCon in a Box. That's my company and with my co-founders, and we're building a SaaS platform that helps you find and win opportunities. And to me, these are slam dunk opportunities, and this is a vital thing for me. So go check out GovCon in a Box as well. But thank you to our sponsors. Okay, so let's talk about what to fix immediately. I got 2 slides on this, and I want to make sure I save myself time for this because this was such an eye-opener on the next slide. But the first thing is, here's simple things you can fix. I didn't want to tell you everything, right? But I just want to start with simple thing. We're in fiscal year 2025, coming to the end of the fiscal year. If you don't understand this or know this already, the fiscal year end of year spending is now. It's not September. If you think about September, it's kind of too late. You want to be in there with the government, making them aware of you, et cetera. Well, a capability statement is one of your best assets to be able to proactively reach out there and get it out there. And so you want to make sure you update your capability statement, make sure it reflects today's core competency you have. And if you've got new wins, et cetera, put that in there. Update your capability statement. It should take less than a day to do that. Don't kill yourself on it. And then put it in the places that federal buyers will look. Obviously, you can reach out and send it to individuals. Like I see David Waltz here. He's always open to learning about new companies. But put it in DSBS. Right now, there are 370,000 or so small businesses registered in DSBS active in the last year. That means that's how many are in there. Over 300,000 of us do not even have a capability statement in there. So if a federal buyer comes in to look, they go, there's no capability statement. I'm going to move on because there's thousands who do have it, right? And all it is you go to connect.sba.gov, you put your URL to your capability statement in a field there. It takes less than 5 minutes. Make sure that capability statement is on your website, and that is what you're sending the government back to or anybody back to, because when they click on that link, you want them to go back to your website to review not just the capability statement, but everything else that's on your website. Second place to put it is your website. Make sure it's on your website. There should be a button. In my case, it should be in your top navigation or something where you have the about, and sometimes people put like leadership or something. Put capability statement. Don't make me search. Don't make anybody search for your capability statement. Put it in my face because that is your most important asset. And you want me to download it, and I take it away and I have it with me, etc. Third place is LinkedIn. You can go learn all sorts of training on there, but put your capability statement right here on your LinkedIn profile. If you want to see how to do it right, go to look at Nina Martin Somebody type her profile in there or her name, but Nina Martin, right? She's got her capability statement, and I've used her as examples before where she's got it in there. And so if somebody comes in, they can just see it right away, click on it and download it. You want that same thing. So put your capability statement in those 3 places. Do it today. Second tip is capability narratives and keywords. This is a really important thing, and you can do it very, very fast. If you go into DSBS, you will notice that you have the ability to do 3 different fields that are searched by federal buyers. All the other fields are kind of filters, but 3 fields are what we call keyword index, meaning when somebody searches for something, they can look in. Long story short, go in there and make sure your keywords and your narrative, the top keywords you want to be found for, are in DSBS. I have training on how to do that on GovCon and Box. When you look at your profile and I tell you you're missing keywords, I then show you a video on how to fix that. And then capability statement, right? Put your keywords and your top narratives into the capability statement. Make sure there's an alignment between DSBS and what it says and your capability statement. And then the last thing is metadata. If you don't know what metadata is, go watch previous videos I've done and I talk about it. But basically, if you go to your PDF of your capability statement, you go to the file menu, you'll see something called properties. If you click on properties, you will see fields, and the fields will be intuitive, right? Comments, keywords, things like that. Put your narrative and your keywords into the metadata. Metadata allows your results, your file, to come up above your competitors. I've done tons of training on that, so this is a quick tip because I want to get to this next one. How do you be visible, right? A great way to be visible, and let me zoom myself out a little bit because it's a little harder to see, but respond to sources sought in RFI notices, request for information notices, right? These 2 notices are the federal buyers saying, I want to engage with industry. Do all of us potentially have some horror stories where the government doesn't get back to us? Yes. Who cares? When they do, it's worth $100,000 or $1 million or $10 million, right? Forget about the no's, pay attention to the yeses. So respond to sources sought, because when you do, the small business professional potentially is seeing it, especially if you copy them. The contracting shop is seeing it, and the program office is seeing it. I use this example. I was just looking at this. It was from this past month here in May, but the Army had a sources sought that they put out, and it was huge. You can kind of see this where they're talking about cybersecurity, cloud infrastructure, DevOps, AI, ML, all this kind of stuff. And so if you're anywhere in IT services, only 38 small businesses responded. That should be 380 small businesses responding. Look how easy it is for you to become visible when you respond. Even 38, that's not that many, because when you think about how many they would love to come back on this huge program they're going to be doing, only 38 companies responded, right? And to put this in perspective, there's 12,000 Army prime contractors and only 38 responded to the sources sought. There's 370,000 of us small businesses. Only 38 responded. There's a way for you to be visible when you respond to sources sought and RFIs out there. So don't discount those. Make sure you're doing those on your core competency, only where you know that you can do great work. All right, here's what I want you to remember from today's training. First thing is, remember, people buy from those they know, like, and trust, right? And so it starts with those they know. Become visible and get known. Second thing is, don't just expect buyers to come to you. Be where they're looking. Go to those supplier portals. Third thing is, start with one thing today. I gave you several different tips. Start with one thing. For example, on LinkedIn, just upload your capability statement. Don't even update it yet. Just don't give it a new capability statement. Just upload it and then update it and replace it, right? But do something today that increases your visibility, because you're watching this training to be more visible to federal buyers, and it begins with doing something. Hey, if you're doing over $2 million and you're looking for help getting into federal agencies, we've got a program called the BD Accelerator Workshop. Love to have you in there. Just put workshop in the chat. I say $2 million or more because it's an investment on your part, and we will guide you through that process of finding the right people and getting in the doors so that you can start telling federal buyers about what you sell and how you can help them. As all of us move through our day, just remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. I will see you in the next training.
you.